Even in his weirdest dreams, John Macharia has never dreamt to wake one day and the first thing to see would be this beautiful face of Polly Mokami, a charming and a gorgeous wife they have been living together for a year and a half. Born without arms and with very little education, John never considered himself a contender for this sublime Polly until one morning when a thirst for a cup of tea pulled them together in a hotel. And their life has never been the same. Their love story is fabulous enough, but what is more stunning is how John managed to snatch Polly's heart against all the healthy and wealthy competitors who were running after her in a heavily furious battle to try and earn her approval. It reached a boiling point where Polly had to sacrifice everything she had ever known, from her friends to her family and her moderate wealth, all because of this disabled man. How did this disabled man manage to marry this beautiful woman? And why did she leave behind everything she had to join him? This is the remarkable love story. It all started one morning when the confused John wanted to take some time out to freshen his blurred mind. With no job and family to take care of him, problems surrounded him.
Nimekuwa katika changamoto za maisha.
I have lived a very difficult life since my mother passed away. The tragedy of being born without arms was heavy enough, but my stepmother's conduct exacerbated my situation. I have always been a very optimistic person, but even then, I would face challenges which could only weaken me.
Babangu alipata mke, na sasa kutoka hapo challenges zikaanza kutoka hapo.
When my father married another woman, my troubles multiplied. She said that she would never wash my clothes, and she was always abusing me until I decided to leave home and go fend for myself in the city. Maybe the timing was right, but the circumstances were not. Fending for himself was not a walk in the park as the young man thought it to be. The man with no arms or any other advanced skills failed to secure any job in the bustling life of Nairobi, a city in which only the strongest will be able to survive, as its residents usually say. As he struggled to establish himself, John resorted to his last option, which was to sit down on the roadside and beg. Lonely, heartbroken and depressed, the embattled John contemplated suicide, as he could never fathom how God has chosen to let him, of all people, born without arms. He had bitterly realized how big of a disadvantage it was, and it was struck in his heart the most was the acknowledgement that he was not going to change it for once. What strengthened me is the fact that I knew God. I came to realize that I'm unique and God has created everybody uniquely. I was also consoled by the fact that I could do everything I wanted to do by myself in terms of caring for myself. I could use my feet instead of my hands. I can wash my face, brush my teeth, and drink a cup of tea using my feet instead of hands like other people do. A cup of tea is something significant in this house. It's more than a simple breakfast as it might be to your house. Every morning when Polly is done with facial preparations, she will go to the kitchen and prepare some tea for breakfast. In the living room, her waiting husband will be watching YouTube videos or making some calls as he will be served a cup of tea by his submissive wife. Using his bare foot and toys, John will sip his tea and helped, something he has taught himself since he was a toddler. As it is the same cup of tea that brought him closer to his wife in the first place. Sitting in the far corner of a hotel hall, the lonely John glanced back as a cheering group of young females entered the same hall and booked the far opposite table before each member of the group ordered a cup of tea. Sitting at the other far end, John couldn't help but glance from the corner of his eyes Driven by desire to see how he sips his tea using toys, Pauline stood from her group and approached him.
Tell us the first thing about
The first time I saw him, it was love at first sight. I was surprised. I couldn't believe someone could use his feet to do certain activities like drinking tea. I approached him to know how he does that, and we had a little chat which ended up by exchanging contacts. I was super impressed by his confidence. But even as they started to get regular engagement, John had a problem and he didn't want to beat around the bush. His single life as physically challenged man was becoming tougher on a daily basis, and he needed a wife to live with very soon. He had tried before, but all his initial relationships failed.
Hakuna mahali nilimwambia kuwa nataka in a relationship like.
I have never asked her to get into a normal relationship. I told her straight what I wanted. I proposed her and she was willing to listen to me. Unlike all other girls who would not even give me a chance, I shared with her all about my life, and she was fine with it. She always motivated me to be the best version of myself. I thank her so much because she loved me and accepted me the way I am. Even when we don't have money to buy food or pay rent, she always motivates me and reminds me that we're in this together. She made a lot of sacrifice for me and I'm grateful to her. And the sacrifices were made for sure. Initially, when Polly informed her parents about her relationship, they thought it was something casual which would vanish soon. Her friends even had bigger problems, as they threatened to cut her off if she dared to keep the man who can barely feed her. I had so many men who were trying to entice me. By the time I met John, I had another boyfriend who many of my friends knew. They all tried to convince me to keep up with him since he was wealthy and good looking. When I informed my friends that I had chosen John, they couldn't believe it. They asked me a lot of questions and demotivated me a lot. They told me that he would never be able to feed me, nor would he provide me with the basics I needed. I didn't listen to them because he was what my heart wanted. Today, the couple is living the best life and doing everything together. When they're out, you can see the happiness. Often, they'll be cracking jokes along the way. As they go to the market to buy foodstuff and other necessities. Wrapped under the warmth of his wife's arms, a kiss on the cheek and forehead. This is what every man's dream looks like, and John is living his dreams on a daily basis. This is one of the reasons he considers himself the luckiest person on earth, even if he's relatively poor. I don't have a job. I don't have the means to help him financially. He's the father of our house and he brings everything you see here. My life depends on him. He brings food, pays rent, provides clothing and any other bills. Sometimes he comes back with absolutely nothing. Sometimes he comes back with money. But in whatever case, I always make sure that he's happy. We are always living a good life in our paradise house. He tries his very best to provide for his family and I appreciate him for that. The hard life they live in is a very big interruption to the normal and otherwise beautiful life, but they always try to shrug it off. What they lack now is the capital to start a business, and you can help them to improve their lives through giving Life's links found in description and pinned in top comments. They might struggle to fulfill their financial needs, but when they sleep together, breathing in each other's soul, the first dream is fulfilled and the hope is restored forever. Thank you for watching. I'm Elijah and this is Afrimax English. Remember to subscribe.